ForGood as a platform has facilitated almost 40,000 connections so far between people and causes. And that's in the realms of skills-based volunteering, goods donations, and money donations. My name is Andy Hadfield. I'm the CEO of ForGood.co.za. I'm just an ordinary South African that's been building internet businesses, I guess, building things online for more than 20 years now. ForGood's got a fascinating history. So it was actually born, originally founded by a guy called Garth Jaffet, who was the brains behind Soul City and a company called Heartlines. So we came kind of firmly out of the social impact non-profit space. And I would say we were fundamentally formed to try and reduce the inequality gap. In South Africa, we have this crazy gap between the haves and the have-nots. And if you put a positive spin on that, what it also means is that we have a lot of resources in this country, but we don't have an easy way to get the resources to service the needs. Okay? So if you boil it down, what ForGood does is it matches needs to resources. So I came in about 6 years ago. Garth, as per usual, was way ahead of his time, and he just needed a technologist. He needed someone who'd done stuff on the internet before. And so we built what we're extremely proud of, and what I think is one of South Africa's most successful social enterprises. Okay? So we're a for-profit commercial enterprise that creates social impact. So there are essentially two parts to ForGood. So what you'll see on ForGood.co.za is South Africa's largest volunteering and donation platform. Free to charities, free to citizens. You can come in there and we will connect your resources, okay? So specifically your skills or your money or your goods, to the needs on the ground of charities across South Africa. So every connection that we're making on ForGood is meaningful and impactful because those needs come from the charities themselves. And the other side of the company, where we actually built a business, is we create and run employee volunteering programs for some of South Africa's largest corporates, currently representing about 16 of them. And this is a fascinating space, which oddly enough, South Africa is way behind in. If you go to the developed world, employee volunteering is mainstream. Everyone does it. Every big company has volunteer leave and employee volunteering programs. Come to South Africa, it barely existed before we started really giving it a crack 6 years ago. And so that's the business side of ForGood. So not only can we leverage all the South Africans that we can get through our public side, but there's this really exciting opportunity to leverage tens of thousands now of corporate employees who are registered on our platforms, who can give back and give of their skills, because they're corporate employees, they have skills, they've been hired, they're in roles, to give those skills back to the needs of the development world. So before lockdown, we were a cool little tech company, had an office in Dunkeld West in Johannesburg, crazy blue walls, all the things you'd usually find in a tech company. And we were on a good path. We were getting more corporates, traffic on the site was growing, business was stabilizing. In fact, I think we turned our first ever profit just before lockdown. Which again, for a social enterprise, it's crazy and it's amazing, and I'm super proud of the team. And then lockdown hit, firstly we had to look after our team. So we made a decision to go remote. I think around the 24th of March, we went completely remote. Luckily, we're a digital company, so it was easier for us, but it's not easy for any company. And we've been remote since then. We really miss each other. We've been trying to have workday Wednesdays every now and again, just so we can see each other face to face. I think what was the most fascinating thing from a business point of view about the impact that lockdown and the whole pandemic had on us was that we just built this brand new revenue stream. It had come to represent more than maybe 15-20% of our revenue. We were doing physical events and activations to drive engagement in volunteering and skills-based giving inside corporates. And this thing was growing super quickly. It was such an exciting revenue stream. It was pretty much the reason we managed to turn a profit in that financial year. And that dried up overnight, because physical events weren't allowed. So we had 20% of our revenue that disappeared. And Yeah, it was tough times. I mean, it took us a couple of months. We also had all of our corporate clients. I mean, they went into lockdown mode themselves. You know, it was hard enough for us to try and engage 10 employees in our team. Can you imagine trying to engage 25,000? So we didn't hear from them for a couple of months. They moved very quickly into disaster relief mode because there was a food crisis in South Africa, and just without the help of not only the non-profit sector but also the corporates, I mean, we would have had serious problems in South Africa. The work they did was incredible. And then a month or two in, we had to start figuring out what to do next. You know, we had to replace lost revenue. So we made a pivot. It's a great tech word. And it was such a simple pivot when you look back at it, but it was incredible what it did. There's been this thing called virtual volunteering for many years. We didn't invent it, but it's this idea of what can you give from a skills, goods, or money point of view over the internet. Because you had to do it over the internet because we were all locked down. We've been locked down since March, April last year. And we pivoted every single volunteering activity. We worked with our nonprofits so that the needs and the opportunities they loaded on the site moved 100% virtual. And so in a matter of weeks, everything we did became about how do you give from your home where you're locked down. And it had incredible effects. There were almost 50,000 people that went through that site between April and May 2020. It was just this flood of traffic. I spent most of my days, in my pajama pants doing media interviews because it was just a story that resonated. You had the whole country that was trapped at home. Everyone felt terrible for the hardships that our citizens, our fellow South Africans were facing. And there was just nothing you could do, except now there was. Okay? So you could come on, and if you were lucky enough to have an internet connection, you could mentor a kid who wasn't getting the mentorship that they needed because they weren't allowed to go to school. Okay? You could tutor maths. You could take over the social media account and fundraise for a charity that was busy feeding people instead of doing what they normally do. From a corporate perspective in our employee volunteering business, it was amazing. I mean, every single event we did now, and interestingly enough, we grew our events business by 20% during lockdown just by doing virtual volunteering based events. Yeah, so the impact had we not made that pivot would have been really interesting, and I think it might have hit us in a couple of ways. So let's start with the impact, which is obviously the most important thing. It's like, how do you reduce that inequality gap and change South Africa for the better? I mean, thousands and thousands of beneficiaries are getting help through this matchmaking service of resources to needs that ForGood provides. And I guess that would have stopped. ForGood as a platform has facilitated almost 40,000 connections so far between people and causes. And that's in the realms of skills-based volunteering, goods donations, and money donations. The whole interest in the employee volunteering industry has started to grow. So while we lost 4 clients near the beginning of lockdown, we've actually gained 5 now. So there's this renewed interest in what especially corporate employees can do because they're sitting in a position of privilege and they have skills and they have money. And so we're growing now as a business, and it's a really exciting time despite still being locked down and despite the fact that the pandemic is likely to be with us for a while yet. We're busy onboarding a bunch of new corporates, which is really exciting. We've embarked on a complete redesign of the site. So we've got confidence from the fact that we managed to grow inside a pandemic. So we're busy with that. We've just introduced a new type of volunteering called micro volunteering. Again, I don't think we invented it, but it's all about how you put it out there and how you capitalize on it, how you provide it as a giving experience for your users. If you want to get involved, it's very easy. If you're a South African, you can come to forgood.co.za and you can pick from thousands of fascinating ways to give back. Volunteer your time and skills, donate previously loved stuff that you have, or donate money, which is a powerful way of creating impact. And if you're a corporate with more than 1,000 employees, employee volunteering is a powerful employee engagement driver. It's all about purpose-driven business. And so come talk to us. It has been a wild ride, and it's been completely different to how I think any of the team at ForGood thought it would be. But something that has just continued to amaze us is how resilient the charities are, how quickly they pivoted towards disaster relief, how quickly they've pivoted back, how they've restructured their organizations in such stress and pressured times. And the volunteers, the people who give. We can sometimes sit back and just watch these engagements going on between South Africans and charities representing South Africans that really need help. And it's just a beautiful thing to watch, and I hope people keep doing it.